My dad kicked me out for the new baby, then my grandpa revealed he owns my dad's house and has been bankrolling his life, so now my dad wants me back because grandpa's charging him $1,200 rent, but turns out my stepmom's homophobic parents manipulated him into kicking me out because I'm trans. Posted by u/zesti closed charge 281. I, 21F, lost my mom when I was 14. My dad remarried when I was 17. My stepmom has a daughter, 15F, and she and my dad had a boy, 3M, and now she just gave birth to a little girl. Anyway, I have worked since I was 16 to have some money to buy stuff for me. When I turned 18, my dad said I was now an adult and should start paying rent. It was only $500, a symbolic amount since he would still cover food and other essentials. I was mad and we fought, but in the end I accepted, and that was the arrangement until 7 months ago. My dad came to me saying I had 2 months to move out, my stepmom was pregnant, and they would need my room for the baby. Which is insane because they both have private offices. My stepmom doesn't even need one since she's a stay-at-home mom since the birth of my baby brother. Nonetheless, they told me I had to move. By the way, just an addendum, me and my stepmom get along fine. We don't fight or bicker. I don't think this was an evil stepmom moment, but who knows? Me and my stepsister are actually pretty close. I help her with homework and talk about her personal problems. I do love her very much. Back to the story, I didn't know what to do. I'm going to college, I want to be a civil engineer, and I work part-time. I don't have the means to live by myself. I called my aunt, asking if I could move in with her for the time being until I figured something out. I offered to pay rent and all. She was aghast at what my dad was doing. She said I absolutely could live with her, no rent needed, but also said she was going to deal with my dad. The next day, my grandpa came to our house, and they talked privately. I could hear my dad's angry voice, but couldn't understand anything being said. After a while, my grandpa came to my room and said I had 3 choices. The first was to continue living with my dad and stepmom like I was doing, nothing would change except without paying rent. The second was moving in with him and my grandma, or my aunt. The third was to find a place of my own and he would pay the rent and costs for me. He said I didn't need to choose now, I could keep living with my dad, and if I changed my mind to just tell him. I was actually relieved I could still live with my dad and that this madness was over. But the following days and weeks, my dad and stepmom were very hostile towards me, and I felt incredibly uncomfortable being in my own home. Even my stepsister picked this up and asked me why they were angry at me. So I decided to move out and told my grandpa. He said he would take care of everything. A few weeks later he moved me into one of his rental units. The apartment is lovely. He bought me a fridge, stove, and other essential items. He gave me a check for $15,000, saying this money is to help me start living on my own, and that as long as I am working or studying, I can live there rent-free for as long as I want. My dad and I have been pretty low contact since I moved out. He never came to visit me, or I visit them. I miss them a lot, especially my stepsister, but I am still hurt. 2 weeks ago, my stepmom gave birth. I visited them in the hospital. It was a little awkward, but nice seeing them and my baby sister. Anyway, a few days ago my dad calls me, saying he misses me, the children miss me, and I should move back home. He apologized for asking me to move out, etc., and I told him I would think about it. Yesterday I visited my aunt, and was telling her what my dad said, and my cousin laughed a little and said, "I'm sure he does." I asked what he meant, and that's when they told me a lot of, until now, unknown information. Basically, my dad's home is actually my grandpa's, as is my aunt's. Basically the deal he made with me, he did with all his kids and some grandkids as well. He never wanted any of his family to have to worry about basic stuff like a house and food, etc. When I called my aunt that time, she called my grandpa, who was furious with my dad, not only for kicking me out, but also for charging me rent. That day he went to my dad's and tore him a new one, and threatened to have him evicted. But now the petty part, you know that $15,000 my grandpa gave me? It's actually what I paid my dad in rent all that time, and now he's making my dad pay him back. Also, he's charging my dad $1,200 for the rent loss in the apartment I'm living in. Call me dumb or naive, but until now I never realized my dad didn't make that much money. We lived in a great house, always went on vacations, and lived very comfortable lives, but I guess my grandpa has always been helping behind the scenes. Now my cousin thinks my dad is struggling, with 3 kids at home, a single income, and having to pay it back to my grandpa. So he says my dad wants me back because he imagines my grandpa will stop punishing him if I'm back living with them. Honestly, I don't know what to do. I'm actually loving living on my own these past 6 months. But I do really miss them. I miss my siblings. I miss the life we had before all of this, but I don't know if moving back home is the right answer, and also, I'm hurt the reason he wants me back is money. Honestly, I just wanted to vent. Update 1, 8 days later. I wanted to give you guys an update, since you've all been so helpful and kind to me. I was so overwhelmed by the support you gave me. Thanks 1,000 times. Before, just answering some questions people had. My aunt and grandpa are from my father's side of the family. My mom's side, unfortunately, I don't have much contact. My grandparents passed away before my mom. I have uncles and aunts I see once in a while, but they don't live close. I also have 2 other uncles from my father's side. I'm close to them, but not as near my aunt. She was my rock when my mom passed. I consider her a second mom. My stepmom knew about the rent I was paying. It was implied my stepsister would need to do the same when she turned 18. But I don't know if she knew my dad didn't own the house, or the extent of how much my grandpa has financially helped my dad. To the update, Monday, the day after my post, I called my dad and said I decided to not move back. I didn't mention anything I was told, just that I was well settled here, and moving back seemed like a step back. But I also said I wanted to keep in contact with them. They could invite me for dinner whenever they wanted, and I also said I would love for my stepsister and brother to be able to spend time with me here at home. He agreed, and we ended the call on good terms. And since then I've been to their house twice for dinner. Cassie has come over almost every day, and my baby brother came once, but we didn't do much besides watch some shows together. Honestly, everything is fine. And I have no complaints. But I would be lying if I said I don't feel like something is a little off. I think it's my stepmom's mom, Abby. To give a little context, she's always been kind to me, and my stepsister's relationship with her grandmother has always been very good. Cassie loves being at her grandma's, and she visits or sleeps there quite often. But since I started going over to their house again, Abby has as well, and I have a feeling, maybe I'm being paranoid, that she doesn't want me there. Sometimes I catch her looking at me with distaste or disdain. It's hard to describe. Besides that, she acts normal to me, so I don't really know if I'm imagining stuff or not. Cassie hasn't picked this up, but my stepmom has, and she says I'm not imagining things. Last time I was there for dinner, Abby said that the family, including myself, are welcome to spend a weekend at her lake house. I said I would love to go if it's no trouble, and she said it's no trouble at all, but she had this funny smile that gave me the creeps. And again, that distaste I can't really describe look, but a second after she was smiling again. Maybe I'm being dramatic, but after that I just wanted to go home. I know it sounds crazy. I just really wish I knew if I'm just being paranoid or if there's really something going on. Relevant comments. Commenter 1. It sounds like your stepmom's mom is homophobic and is trying to exclude you from the family or make you uncomfortable. Be careful around her. Op's response, I really hope not. That would break my heart. Cassie loves her grandmother so much, and finding out she's homophobic would devastate her. I'm going to keep an eye on things and maybe talk to my stepmom about it more directly. Commenter 2. Has your stepmom talked to her mom about the way she's acting toward you? Op's response, not yet. My stepmom mentioned she's noticed it too, but I don't think she's confronted her about it. I think she's trying to figure out what's going on first before making any accusations. Update 2 weeks later. So things escalated. Last week after I made my post, I talked a little more with my stepmom, who I will now call Shtay since typing stepmom is tedious. We talked about how I was feeling regarding Abby, her mom, and I asked if she knew if Abby had a problem with me being trans. She said no, that she has always been supportive and even marched on pride parades with Shtay and Cassie before. But she said she would keep an eye on things and talk to Abby if necessary. Thursday, 2 days ago, Cassie came to sleep over, and was telling me how excited she was for the weekend at the lake house. I didn't know what she was talking about, so I asked and she said, "Didn't my dad tell you? Abby invited us all." So I called my dad and he confirmed it. He said Abby extended the invitation to the whole family, me included, and he thought it would be nice for us to spend some quality time together. I told him sure, I would love to go. That night I was talking with Cassie, and she mentioned how nice her grandma was being, helping out with money for the new baby and groceries. And that got me thinking. My dad has been struggling financially since my grandpa cut him off, so how is he able to afford to go on a weekend trip? Unless Abby is paying for everything, which would make sense. The next day I called Shtay to ask about it, and she confirmed that yes, Abby and her husband, Labi, have been helping them out financially. She said they offered after the baby was born, and with my dad's financial situation, they couldn't really refuse. I asked if my grandpa knew, and she said no, and she didn't want him to know because she was afraid he would be upset. I told her about my concerns regarding Abby, and how I felt like maybe she was using the money as leverage or something. Shtay said she didn't think so, but she would pay more attention. We ended the call, and I thought that was that. But then yesterday, my dad calls me saying the trip was cancelled. Abby had a family emergency and wouldn't be able to host us. I said okay, that's fine, maybe another time. But then later Cassie called me crying. She said her grandma didn't have a family emergency, Her parents told Abby they weren't comfortable with me going, and Abby canceled the whole trip. I asked Cassie how she knew this, and she said she overheard my dad and Stay fighting about it. Apparently Stay confronted Abby about why she canceled, and Abby admitted that she didn't want me there, that she thought it would be uncomfortable for the family, and that she was only helping my dad and Stay financially because she thought they were going to keep me away from the family. I was devastated. I called Stay, and she confirmed everything Cassie told me. She said she was so sorry, that she had no idea her parents felt this way, and that she told them they were no longer welcome in her home and she didn't want their money. She also said my dad was upset too and supported her decision. So now I don't know what to do. I'm hurt and angry, but also I feel guilty because now my dad and Stay are in an even worse financial situation because they refused Abby's money. And Cassie is heartbroken because she can't see her grandmother anymore. I know it's not my fault, but I can't help but feel responsible. My grandpa called me this morning. Stay called him and told him everything. He said he was proud of Stay for standing up to her parents, and that he would make sure my dad and Stay were taken care of financially. He also said that Abby and Labie were no longer welcome at any family gatherings, and that if they showed up he would have them removed. I'm just emotionally exhausted. I don't understand how people can be so hateful. Cassie loves me, and seeing her so upset because of her grandmother's bigotry just breaks my heart. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, I'm so sorry, Op. It's not your fault at all. Your stepmom and dad made the right choice, and your grandpa is amazing for supporting you all. Op's response, thank you. I know logically it's not my fault, but it's hard not to feel guilty, especially seeing how upset Cassie is. Commenter 2, your grandpa is a real one. I'm glad you have such a supportive family. Op's response, I'm very lucky. I don't know what I would do without my grandpa and aunt. Update 3, 1 month later. Hi everyone. So much has happened since my last post. I don't even know where to start. I guess I'll just go chronologically. First, thank you all for the support and kind words. It really helped me during a difficult time. And for those asking, yes, Cassie is doing better. She's still sad about her grandmother, but she's slowly coming to terms with it. We've been spending a lot of time together, and I think that's helping both of us. Now for the update. Last week my dad asked me to come over for dinner. He said he wanted to talk to me about something important. I was nervous, but agreed. When I got there, my stepmom, my aunt, my grandpa, and my grandma were all there as well. I thought maybe it was some kind of intervention or something, but it wasn't. My dad sat me down and told me he had something to confess. And guys, I was not prepared for what he was about to say. Apparently, and I'm going to try to summarize this as best as I can because it's a lot, my dad has been lying to me, and everyone, about a lot of things. First, let me give you a timeline of events from my dad's perspective, and then I'll tell you how I'm feeling about all of this. Everything I told you on my previous posts is true from my perspective. But there's a lot of context missing, so here it goes. They tell me I need to move out. I talked about this from my point of view. That day my grandpa goes to my dad's home and they have a huge fight, not only my dad and grandpa, but my dad and Stay, because it was then she discovered my dad didn't own the house, my dad had almost no savings, and my dad was dependent on my grandpa. My dad's deal with her parents was still a secret. At this point I asked Stay why then she acted so hostile towards me after that day, so much that it made me feel unwelcome and want to move out. And she looked shocked. She apologized to me and started to cry, saying that she was never mad at me, but at my dad, that she had no idea she was to blame for me moving out. I was crying as well. I said it's not her fault. And guys, I know many of you have said bad things about her, and I don't blame you. But I do believe her. The look on her face when I said I felt unwelcome and that's why I moved out, it's not something you can fake. Now I'm thinking she's as much of a victim of my dad's actions as me, and all this time she was just trying to give me space. So going back to events, I move out. My grandpa not only cuts my dad from all financial support, but starts to charge him money for the house. The only thing he continued paying for is Cassie's education. Now everything is in the open, and my dad and Stay have to cut everything. Dinners, expensive foods, sell her car, etc. Abby and Labie give them some money as well to help out. Poor Stay is stressed out, pregnant, with a lying husband. I'm actually sad for her and what she went through. I was looking at my grandpa, and I could see he was as well. I don't think he realized the amount of stress he was placing on her. I don't know how he will proceed from now on regarding my dad and the house. Before the baby is born, Abby moves in with my dad and Stay. Stay gives birth, things are normal. But with the new baby, my dad feels even more guilty over what happened, and that's when he calls me. Again, this part I already told you, jumping to when I went to dinner the first time. My dad and Stay also recognized Abby acting strange towards me. After I left they talked, nothing came from it. But Stay kept talking to my dad about her mom, And my dad started to tell her his conversations with Ebby and Labi about money and raising kids, etc. After my second dinner, Shay confronted her mom, and they had a huge fight. Apparently that's when she said something along the lines of, "I can't believe you're letting that slur back into your home after getting rid of her." And that's when the coin dropped for my dad, and he realized how much of a fool he has been. They kicked Ebby out, Labi came to pick her up, and they had another fight. My dad actually wanted to act as nothing had happened, continue with me visiting and rebuilding the relationship. But Shay put her foot down and said he needed to come clean about everything, not only to me but Cassie and everyone as well. And so we came to the present. I was crying, Shay was crying, Cassie was crying, my dad was crying, my aunt was crying, my grandpa was crying, my grandma who hadn't said a single word was holding me tight. According to my dad, that's all. No more lies, no more deception. My dad and Shay left after that. I slept at my grandpa's because I was in no state to drive. I came home this morning, took a long shower, cried a lot, and now I'm typing this out to see if it helps me make sense of all of this, make sense of my thoughts and feelings. I guess that's the end of the story. I don't know what I'm gonna do now. I feel sad, angry, sorry for Shay and Cassie. I feel everything and nothing. I'll be calling my therapist tomorrow to see if we can book more sessions. I've been going every Friday, but I can't wait a whole week. On the bright side, whoever had bet evil step-grandmother won. Update 14 months later. Hi everyone. I was recently thinking of this post and decided to give an update. I wished I could have made it on the True Off My Chest subreddit, but alas can't. First, I'm in a much better place emotionally. Last year I was a complete wreck, but I'm doing very well for the most part. For those who don't remember or do not want to read my previous posts, the summary is, my father forced me to move out, my grandpa was mad at him and cut off his financial assistance that no one knew about including my stepmom, and my stepmom's parents manipulated my father into kicking me out because I'm trans, in exchange for their financial support. Now, after everything hit the fan that day, life went back to normal more or less. We started family therapy for a while. It started promising, with my dad being willing and open. But after a while he regressed and became less willing to put on the work until he stopped going. Me, Cassie, and my stepmom continued going for a while but stopped as well. I continue with individual therapy, and my psychiatrist wants to make an evaluation for ADHD, but wants to wait until I'm fully emotionally and psychologically stable. My stepmom and Cassie continue individual therapy as well. As I imagine most could guess, my stepmom and dad ended up separating after a few months. At first it was temporary, but now there's no going back. Divorce is not finalized yet, however. My stepmom stayed in the house as my grandpa would not accept anything else. I started going there to help my stepmom with the baby and my little brother more and more, until I was spending almost all my time there, so me and my stepmom decided I would move back. I thought my grandpa would be disappointed, as he was very proud of how well I was doing on my own, but he looked happy when I told him. But he said he'll keep that unit a little longer out of the market if I ever need it. I continue going to university, but I took only a half load of classes this last year. But now I'm back to a full schedule. Fluid mechanics is a pain. Home life has actually been pretty good. Me and my stepmom became really, really close this last year. She went back to work, while I left mine to help with the kids, and I truly prefer this as taking care of my siblings is much more enjoyable. But also my grandpa insisted on paying me to babysit. But next year I'll start interning at a construction company for my grandpa's friend. I know many people insisted my stepmom knew everything or was somewhat complicit with my dad's actions, but I truly, truly believe and trust her. She's been almost no contact with her parents, and they are forbidden to visit. Cassie also stepped in and is helping a lot around the house, and my grandpa also insists on paying her for her time. We know this is his way of helping us without making it sound too much like charity. My baby sister is a little devil, running all over the house. The little Lucifer, or Lucy as I call her, that's not her name but I do actually call her Lucy sometimes, didn't even learn to crawl properly. She went directly to walking. We need to keep constant vigilance because it seems her head has a magnetic pull towards sharp corners. My little brother was the one hit the hardest by my dad moving out. I know these posts have painted a terrible picture of my father, and I'm not excusing anything he did, but he was a good dad otherwise, and my little brother was very attached to him. Me and my father barely speak nowadays. He acts like we should all forget everything and move on, which I still cannot do. There's no formal custody agreement between him and my stepmom, but he picks my brother once or twice a month to spend the day or weekends, and now that my sister is older, sometimes her too. Overall, I'm in a much better place than I was last year. I have an incredible family, amazing grandparents, loving siblings, and my stepmom has become a really close friend. I even got a girlfriend. I also know I'm extremely privileged to have a supportive family and system. In no moment in all of this have I ever had to worry about having a roof over my head or food on the table, which unfortunately is not everyone's experience in similar situations, as I've been told, sometimes harshly, over private messages. Lastly, I'd like to thank everyone who read or commented something. The support on my first post was the push I needed to stop being naive and ignore things. Posting here was a great way to help me figure out my thoughts and feelings. But I probably won't do any more updates, as I consider this chapter of my life closed now.